Well, hello, everyone. My name is Kylie Madov. My pronouns are she and her. I'm currently based in New York City, and my role within SAGE is the Senior Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And what that means in the context of SAGE is that I kind of oversee the operations focus on inclusivity for various communities for the constituents that we work with. LGBTQ plus individuals are disproportionately affected by homelessness and discrimination within the housing market for myriad reasons. First and foremost, something that we really have to take into account, and this is particularly true for LGBTQ plus elders, i.e. the people who are currently, as of 2024, in their 60s, 70s, and beyond, that throughout their life cycle, right, with the assumption that they would have probably spent most of their lives in the United States, they would have probably spent most of their working years working in this country, the United States, at a time that was much more socially conservative, right? So when discrimination against LGBTQ plus people was even more socially sanctioned, legally permissible than it is today, right? So a lot of people who are elders now, who are part of the queer community, either they might have experienced pay disparities because of their identity throughout their life cycle, which means they simply have less money saved up, right? Because that's the end effect of discrimination, right? Is like less accumulation of resources and so on and so forth throughout the lifetime. So that's one thing that we see a lot. We also see that, particularly again for elders who are LGBTQ plus, that they are less likely to have family that they can rely on as well, which is directly related to housing, right? So because same-sex marriage was only legalized in this country just under a decade ago, for most of the working lives of people who are now elders in the queer community, they would not have had the protection, the kind of like legal financial protections that marriage affords in the United States. Less likely to have children, right? Like they might be more likely to be estranged from their families. So all of these challenges are, of course, not unique to the LGBTQ plus community, but particularly given just the pervasiveness of transphobia, homophobia, biphobia, and other sorts of prejudices that target the LGBTQ plus community, elders who fit in this community are more likely to be housing insecure for these reasons, right? Just for the cumulative effects of discrimination that they would have faced at work and then in their social circles throughout their life cycles. So as we all know, there are myriad experiences and identities within the LGBTQ plus umbrella, right? So yes, we can speak of an LGBTQ plus community, but it's also really important to contextualize that this community, this larger community, is built up of many quite distinct communities that often have great amounts of differences in lived experience between them. So, for example, while it is true that LGBTQ plus people of any sort of ethnic background might be exposed to discrimination by landlords or employers or family members, there is research that suggests that these forms of discrimination are even more prevalent for queer seniors or for queer people in general who are of color, right? So we see people like we see seniors who might be LGBTQ plus, as well as being people of color. And because of the kind of twin effects of racism that they might have experienced throughout the lifetime, as well as, queer phobia that they might have experienced throughout the lifetime, we absolutely do see an even higher degree of sort of economic and housing precarity among LGBTQ plus elders of color. And also it's really important to highlight this is even more true for queer elders of trans experience, right? Particularly trans women and particularly Black and immigrant trans women as well. We've often noticed that while again, housing insecurity is not unique to this community, that trans people, especially trans people of color who are elders, are especially prone to kind of housing insecurity, again, for all the reasons I stated earlier that have to do with more tenuous connections to familial support structures, social support structures, pervasive discrimination at work throughout the life cycle, landlord discrimination as well. All of those absolutely most negatively affect people of color within the queer community and trans people.